All right. It's a Thursday edition of the Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I feel like I've been talking to you guys a lot lately. I feel like I've been hearing my voice and seeing my face between. Let's recount. We had the Morning Pitt yesterday. 3 live streams throughout the day. A couple of interviews with recruits, Zoom interviews, so you could see my face on those and hear my voice again. I had a non-Zoom interview, but an interview with Cruz Brookins where you could still hear me. I feel like if you followed everything we put out yesterday, you not only got a lot of information on Pitt recruits and stuff, but you also got a whole lot of me. So I don't really feel like there's a whole lot I should tell you about this morning. I'm just kidding. We'll have plenty to talk about here on the Morning Pitt on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You know all the deal. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. The subscribe button's right down there. You roll your little mouse over the screen and you'll see the little blue subscribe button. Click that thing and subscribe to our YouTube channel to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That would be much appreciated, and you can make sure you never miss any of our content. That's ultimately what it comes down to, is you can subscribe and then you can turn on notifications. You get an alert sent to your phone anytime we go live, anytime we release a new video. We have post-game videos, analysis, press conferences. We have the live streams. Like I said, we had 3 live streams yesterday during signing day, and so there was a lot. You might have missed some. You might not have known all the different things we were doing, and so it may have occurred to you that oh darn, I would have liked to have caught that live stream. We had a lot of people. 8:45 a.m. We had a pretty good crowd for the live stream there. Pretty decent crowd at 12:30 in the afternoon. Good crowd for our regular Wednesday night show last night, and you might have missed it. Well, you wouldn't miss it, or at least you know it, and you know that it's happening if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and turn on the notifications there. Of course, I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. You see the website there, Panther-Lair.com. That's just an image. Don't click that. That's not a link. But follow all those letters there and put them into your search bar and go to Panther-Lair.com for the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. All the coverage you're looking for, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, so you don't miss anything. And obviously yesterday was the big day, and today we're sort of decompressing a little bit. Not even decompressing, that's being overly dramatic. We're talking about recruiting here, but it's sort of taking a step back and kind of looking at what Pitt got here. What did this class end up being? And I'm not too concerned about the class ranking right now, just because that'll keep shifting over time as guys continue to commit. I think there's still some pretty good recruits out there on the board for a lot of schools. Not necessarily that Pitt is working on too many more guys for the 2023 class. I think they might try and push for 1 or 2. But the February signing day, I could see them adding another transfer or 2. But ultimately, the class recruiting rankings will move a little bit. They're not fully settled. But when I sit back and I look at the class, and look, I'll say it off the bat. It's better to have guys with high star rankings than to not have them. If you had the option of getting 4 and 5 star recruits or 2 and 3 star recruits, you would and you should take the 4 and 5 star recruits all the time. They have a higher hit rate. And that's not to say that the 2 and 3 star guys have no chance of panning out. There have been plenty of 2 and 3 star guys who have had a lot of success, who've gone on to be NFL Pro Bowlers and all that stuff. But spare me the Cooper Kupp was rated this.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
My watch thought I was talking to it, but mind your own business, jerk. Spare me all this guy was a 2-star or a no-star, and look what he became all pro. See, those ranking services don't know what they're talking about. Chill, all right? Because the reality is, like, those guys like Cooper Kupp or Aaron Donald, not only did the ranking services get it wrong with those guys and underrate those guys, but a whole bunch of colleges missed out too. And while I have a lot of faith in our rankings guys, I think they do a really good job. They work really hard. They don't get them all right, but they get a lot right, and they do their best. The reality is college coaches are making a heck of a lot more money to get it right than the Rivals analysts or the analysts at any of these other recruiting services are getting, right? There's a whole lot more riding for a Power 5 head coach than there is for an analyst, a talent evaluator on a ranking service. And so if those guys get it, because it wasn't just the ranking services, the recruiting services that missed on some of those guys that we always talk about, those classic 2 and 3 star examples of guys who made it all pro. It wasn't just the ranking services that missed on those guys. It was the colleges too. And so, maybe, just maybe, the guy didn't fit the bill coming out of high school. But he got to college and he grew and developed physically and matured well and became really good on the field. And it turns out that, wow, that guy actually ended up being pretty good. But the reality is you have a far higher hit rate. The flip side, of course, is there are 4 and 5 star recruits who bust. There's no question about that. And so anytime we start talking about stars, there's inevitably a group that says, well, what do you say about this 2 and 3 star guy who became an all-pro? And what do you say about the 5-star guys who bust? They bust all the time. This is true. There are examples in each group. There are examples of the 2 and 3 stars who become all-pros. There are examples in the 4 and 5 stars who bust. Well, the reality is you have a higher hit rate, percentage-wise, with the 4 and 5 star guys than you do with the 2 and 3 star guys. It's totally disingenuous when people look at the NFL draft and they say, there were X number of 2 and 3 star guys who were drafted in the first 3 rounds. More than there were 4 and 5 stars. Well, look at the sample size, genius. Each recruiting class has hundreds, thousands of 2 and 3 star recruits and only maybe 250 4 and 5 star recruits. Just on sheer volume, you're probably going to end up with more guys who end up make it to the NFL draft. But if you look at the percentage, like say, out of this one recruiting class, let's say you had 50 2 and 3 star guys who got drafted in the first 2 rounds and 12 or 14 or whatever, 4 and 5 star guys who got drafted in the first 2 rounds. Okay, but take it percentage wise, you have a much higher hit rate on those 4 and 5 star guys. So long, unnecessary sidetrack there. Yes, if you have your choice, you would always take those 4 and 5 star guys. Period, point blank. I mean, you make that statement, and I think most coaches, I know, none of them recruit on stars, and they shouldn't recruit on stars. They should recruit on their own evaluations. Talk about a disingenuous statement. I believe that coaches don't recruit on stars. If they recruited on stars, they should be fired. And quite frankly, if they recruit on stars, they will be fired because they're probably going to end up losing their jobs because they're not doing their own evaluations and finding guys who fit their systems. Good coaching staffs find the players who fit their systems. Now, super athletes, the best of the best, fit most systems. But if you're not getting those guys, if you're not going to get those guys at the very, very top, then you need to find the guys who fit what you want to do. Now we come around to Pitt's 2023 recruiting class. Jesse Anderson fits what Pitt wants to do. Rasheem Biles fits what Pitt wants to do. Shadarian Harrison fits what Pitt wants to do. Jordan Bass, Isaiah Neal. These guys fit what Pitt wants to do. Antonio Cayman and Maverick Grazio. I would say the entire defensive recruiting group here. I forget how many they ended up with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should know this number off the top of my head. 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 recruits. Unless I'm missing one here, as I just kind of glanced down the list. And I would say all 9 of them fit what Pitt wants to do. I mean, you look at the linebackers, the athleticism that Jordan Bass and Rasheem Biles and Braylon Lovelace bring. That's the direction Pitt has been going. And you can look at the last few recruiting classes to see it. I talked about this on one of the live streams yesterday. I mean, Solomon DeShields and Bengali Kamara. Kamara was a safety. DeShields was a wide receiver and a safety in high school. A guy like Marquand Pope, even though he's not playing anymore, because of a medical issue, he was a safety in high school. Kyle Lewis was a safety in high school. You can look around at the linebackers that they're filling. Buddy Mack came to Pitt as a safety. You can look around at the linebackers they've been targeting and recruiting and filling in with, and you see, these athletic guys. And Bass, Lovelace, and Biles all fit that to a T. They all fit that really, really well. Same thing with the defensive backs. Shadarian Harrison, Jesse Anderson, Cruz Brookins. They fit the kind of defensive style this staff wants to play, whether it's at corner or safety. I think those guys all probably could do either one. I think Brookins will end up being a field safety. Harrison, I'm not really sure, could play either one. Anderson will probably end up being a safety, but they fit what the staff is looking for. Isaiah Neal as a playmaking defensive tackle. Hopefully you got a chance to check it out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We have an interview with Isaiah Neal, a 4-star defensive tackle who signed with Pitt yesterday. And we were talking about that during the interview, we talk about that playmaking defensive tackle position of, Kalijah Cansey, Jalen Twyman, Aaron Donald, Mick Williams. And I don't know if Isaiah went as far back as Mick Williams, but he was very much aware of that legacy, very much aware of that lineage, and very much believes he can be a part of it. And he said, that's what you do at Pitt. You are a playmaking defensive tackle. You're a guy who's going to rush the passer. And Isaiah Neal fits that perfectly. I think Grazio and Kamen are good fits, at defensive end for how Charlie Partridge wants his ends to play. And so I think, particularly when you look at defense, you find 9 guys, plus Donovan McMillan, if you want to throw the safety in from Florida, formerly of Peters Township, 10 guys who seem like they're really good fits for what Pitt wants to do. And so you have one 4-star in that group, and Isaiah Neal, right? And I don't want to go too far down the sidetrack on stars, but Jordan Bass and Shadarian Harrison are 4-star prospects. I have no doubt in my mind. We'll see what their college careers end up being, but with what they've done on tape, the offer sheets they have, everything they've done so far in their high school career points toward them being 4-star prospects, and it's a crime that they are not. I'm not necessarily taking a side against the family of Rivals.com here, but they should be 4-star prospects. Either way, you have the one in Neal. So you have that one guy standing out as like the highest rated kid in the class. But when you look at the rest of the defensive recruits, I think they're all really talented. They all had really successful high school careers. And they fit. They fit well what the staff wants. And when we do class rankings and we're ranking, team by team, conference by conference, and all of this, we're going just on the stars. There's no talk about fit. How do they fit into this system? How do they fit into that system? Well, this guy, we don't really see what he's going to be able to do. Well, he's actually a great fit for what this team does. And different teams have different positions. Different teams do things differently. Some teams use this position more. Some teams use it less. And there's no accounting for that. And there shouldn't be. That's almost an impossible way to try and make a comprehensive national ranking of recruiting classes. It's almost impossible to say, well, how do they fit the needs of what the coaches needed and what they were looking for in their class. But if we apply that, I think we can do that on a very micro level. And if we put that filter on Pitt's class and we say, okay, how does this class fit what Pitt wants to do? And how does this class fill the needs that the coaching staff identified heading into the recruiting cycle and throughout the recruiting cycle? And to that end, looking at defense again, you have 3 athletic linebackers, 3 really good defensive backs. And flipping over to offense, you get 4 wide receivers and 2 running backs. I talked about this before. If they signed, they end up with 19 high school prospects, and 6 of them, so almost a third, are running backs and receivers. If you want to find out what a coaching staff thinks of its current roster, the transfer portal will tell you a lot, but also the recruiting. And it's the current roster for 2023, but it's also, if you want to find out what the coaching staff thinks of its roster over the next few years, you look at how they recruit. You look at the positions they go after, the positions they hit with a lot of numbers, and where they sign a lot of guys. And they signed a lot of guys at wide receiver and running back. As I say, 4 receivers, 2 running backs. That tells you where they felt like they needed numbers. And it's not entirely a reflection on the players on the current roster. I think it's usually more a reflection on numbers and how the depth looks to the coaches. But they definitely needed a numbers influx at running back. If you want to take even just a minimum of 1 running back every year, they missed that last year when Jordan Bailey was unable to qualify academically. So just to make up for that, they needed a second running back in this class. Montrevious Lloyd and TJ Harbison being the 2. but then, probably every 2 years, 3 years, you're going to need to take a couple of backs in a class just to probably fill in the depth holes that you're going to run into. And I think that's part of it here for Pitt as well. So they're trying to make up for what they lost last year in not signing a running back in the 2022 recruiting class, but also just needing to reload the numbers. I mean, Rodney Hammond's going to be a junior in 2023. Sibo Flemister, assuming he comes back, is going to be a redshirt senior. And, I don't, Izzy Abanikanda already declared that he's gone. I don't expect Vincent Davis to come back. So, I mean, they were going to need some numbers to fill in there. And I could still see them potentially pursuing a transfer running back. I could see that over the next few weeks. Probably someone they'd want to get in for the spring if they would be able to do so. So, I think it's interesting from that perspective in what kind of numbers they threw at those offensive skill spots, particularly wide receiver. Because, we know that, they were pretty thin by the end of the year. Really just going with like 3 receivers most of the time. Jaden Bradley left, which is unfortunate because I think he had a chance to be really good. Jalen Barden just never could catch on with the staff, and probably for a variety of reasons. But it really just left Jared Wayne, Bub Means, and Kanate Mumfield. And you hope you're going to have all 3 of those guys back in 2023. Jared Wayne is really the question mark, and he hasn't said anything yet either way of what he intends to do. But you hope you're going to have those 3 guys back, and then you're probably, they're trying to get they're trying to get a transfer wide receiver in. You'd like to do that, but then you're probably going to have to rely on some younger guys. So you've got like Miles Alston, Addison Copeland, Che Wabuko as younger receivers. I don't know what the staff's confidence level is like in those guys. And then now you're bringing in 4 freshmen with Kenny Johnson, Lamar Seymour, Isaiah Polk, and Zion Fowler. You're probably going to see 1 or 2 of those guys on the field. Depending on what happens, with Jared Wayne and if they're able to get a transfer in. If they get Jared Wayne back and they get a transfer in, maybe you only see 1 of those freshmen on the field. If you lose Wayne or you don't get a transfer or both, you're probably going to see more than 1 freshman have to play this year. And you hope that those guys are ready. I think Lamar Seymour is coming in early. He's going to enroll in January. Israel Polk from California is enrolling early. I think those are the only 2 receivers. Kenny Johnson, I think, is enrolling in June. And who's the other one? Zion Fowler. I'm not sure. I think he's enrolling in June as well. I'll have to double check on that. But the more guys you can get in January, the better, and presumably the better chance they'll have of playing early. But there again, it's a spot where they felt like they needed numbers. And they went out and got them. They got numbers, and I think they got some talented players, too. I really like Lamar Seymour. I really like Kenny Johnson.
Here's what I found.
Again, why does my watch keep thinking I'm talking to her? What am I doing? Sorry for the distraction. Leave me alone. I think those guys can be really good. I think Zion Fowler can be really good in college. And Israel Polk is really intriguing to me. So, long story long. They had some spots they wanted to address. We've talked a lot about the quarterback situation. They did what they needed to do, filling the 3 big needs at quarterback. They found a boundary safety to come in out of the transfer portal who can step in for Brandon Hill. Got 9 guys on defense that I think fit really, really well. And then on offense, they 3 linemen, 4 receivers, 2 running backs, got a quarterback, kind of got what they needed, or at least tried. Tried to find what they needed out of the recruiting class. So, it's not rated as highly as, certainly as it should be. I would say, particularly when you look at guys like Bass and Harrison being underrated, it's not rated as highly as I think a lot of people were hoping to see this year. But I think it's a class that fills a lot of needs. I think it's a class with a lot of guys who fit what Pitt wants to do. And it's a class that does have some guys who are pretty badly underrated. That I think have a real chance to be studs in college. Not the least of which is our man there, Ghost, Isaiah Neal. So, overall, I like a lot of the pieces of this class. What it's lacking, and I think I talked about this before on a Morning Pitt, what it's really lacking is that one or two guys, and they may have them, even if they're not rated as such, but that one or two guys who are that elite top talent, I think Isaiah Neal is close. I think Jordan Bass is close. I think Shadarian Harrison is close. They need some guys like that, or maybe just a little bit better, to really top it off and make it a really good class. But I think it's pretty good for now. I think people have dismissed a lot of this class or said it's just, it's a bad class. It's an awful recruiting class. And I mean, the stars are not impressive, but there's some really good players in this class. Some really good players. All right. We will, we'll have another Morning Pitt to finish off the week tomorrow. And then we might take a little bit of break over the holiday weekend, just to take a little bit of time. But we'll have one more for you tomorrow. We got to talk about basketball because we never got into that Syracuse game from Tuesday night, which was pretty. There was a lot. There was a lot to talk about. We haven't talked about it on yesterday's Morning Pitt or today's Morning Pitt. But we'll get into that tomorrow. We'll talk more recruiting, talk more football. Any news that comes out, we will break it down right here on the Morning Pitt. You can always stay tuned at Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. The most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. And while you're here, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We got a ton of content there. Just kind of go to the YouTube channel and scroll around. You're bound to find something that's interesting to you. So check out our recruit interviews and our Morning Pits and live streams and all the other stuff we've been doing. youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate it greatly. Hope you had a good signing. I hope you had a fun signing day yesterday. There was no bad news that came out of it for Pitt, so that's always a good thing. And I hope you have a great Thursday. The holiday's coming. Should be a nice time. It's a very cold one, so bundle up out there. But thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning, on the Morning Pitt, right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.